It had been hot and dry for weeks on end in the autumn of 2023. In spite of that, the hickory, maple, and oaks of the Shawnee National Forest offered up an incredible array of color, forming a tapestry of greens and reds and golds and rust hues, giving any award-winning New England fall foliage a run for its money. And the blessed rain did come at the end of October, and the parched trees drank deeply of the moisture, and the land resumed its fertile promise. I had just started farm school and was excited to share tidbits I'd learned thus far with inquiring minds in my community. I discovered members of the community were already quite knowledgeable about forest food foraging, how water shapes the land, and what constitutes soil health, all items of great interest to me as I contemplated the vision for the Cobden Cottage. It was my dream to turn the Cobden Cottage into a place where folks could come learn about organic gardening, regenerative farming, and permaculture. I'd been inspired by John and Molly Chester of the Biggest Little Farm on Apricot Way back in California, as well as Dr. Zach Bush with The Farmer's Footprint. The cottage grounds could host a visceral, hands-on learning experience about growing, as well as become a community hub for focus on relationship between nature, health, and in particular, mental health.
You would get
Self-sustainability for the skittish millennial.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I think that you would get a lot of interest.
Yeah? That's kind of what, maybe that's the mission of the Cobden Cottage.
Yeah, I mean, for those of us who still have to be reminded what poison ivy is, for
Yeah.
example.
I was eager to share with the group what I'd been doing for the past 3 years with my kitchen garden. I'd been growing greens of all sorts: kale, spinach, several different types of lettuce, Asian greens, as well as other things such as green beans, peas, and other items that one uses in the kitchen. My goal would be to grow peppers, onions, carrots, sweet potatoes, as well as all of the greens that one might need for doing salads and side dishes of vegetables in the kitchen. As we ventured out to a deep gorge that had been cut into the hillside, we talked about building a new structure into the hillside, as well as converting the existing shed into a tiny home. I pointed out the rainwater catch system that then pumps rainwater to the raised beds for the kitchen garden and uncovered the shiitake mushroom logs. The guy that I bought the house from, Jason, had started up the shiitake logs before I moved in here 3 years ago. And I've been getting a shiitake yield every year in both the autumn and the spring when the weather is cooler. The logs are disintegrating now and need to be dragged out to the woods where they will continue to produce shiitakes. And then we need to put spores into new logs and set them up. Farmer Stu, who was my land hand and farmhand for the first couple of years, is knowledgeable about such things and will help us get this started again this year. The group gathered on the deck for a meal we had all contributed to, sharing in kind food, drink, and conversation about the state of healthcare, food, and education. Bushcraft. Danielle, our fire starter, stoked the flames for us to gather around as the cool evening breezes drew us together and the sun took its leave of the day. An opening invocation borrowed from the Nordic tribal folk group Highland was recited, and a sacred circle was established. Each person in the circle shared a poem, song, idea, work of art, or meditation reflective of the soul's journey to this fire. This gathering with concerns expressed for those suffering with profound anxieties and depression, and noted hope for the possibility of what in Japan is called forest baths, and healing that can be brought about by face-to-face, in-person connection with nature and other creatures, including other humans. We each went into the night enriched by good food, laughter, song, and soulful repose, struck with ideas about how to ease the suffering of those who may have been alienated from themselves and each other through the increasingly isolated lifestyles that many live today. The Cobden Cottage may offer a brief refuge from these ever-exhaustive and fatiguing aspects of modern life. Here, for one afternoon, evening, and by fireside night, 8 perfect strangers became friends and returned to the world with their souls enriched.